Young and the Restless spoilers reveal the terrible pain that Victoria may face in the future. Pain flooded Victoria's life at a time when she never imagined that everything could fall apart like this. The loss of Cole was not only the loss of a life partner, a companion, but also the loss of a part of her soul and the future that she had built with all her hope and love. That departure happened so suddenly, leaving a void in Victoria's heart that nothing could fill, especially when she had to face the cruel reality that a new life was gradually forming inside her body. The moment she discovered she was pregnant was the moment Cole was forced to leave forever, turning the fragile joy that had not yet blossomed into a deep torment that reached the bottom of her heart. Victoria no longer knew whether to cry for the joy of a new life growing, or to cry for the despair of having to raise this child alone, while the man she loved the most was no longer there. Her mind was spinning with memories of Cole, his every smile, his eyes, his words of encouragement still echoing somewhere, as if she just turned around, she would see him still standing there, ready to hug her, wipe away her helpless tears. But the harsh reality always reminded Victoria that everything was just the past, that Cole had truly left this world, leaving her to face the responsibility of motherhood in loneliness and extreme pain. Clare, even though she was young, still felt her mother's pain so deeply that she felt her heart shatter into pieces. She felt sorry not only for her mother but also for herself, for their family who had gone through so many storms and now continued to face such a great challenge. During the dark days, Clare never left Victoria's side, trying to connect mother and daughter together with patience, affection, and silent hugs containing thousands of words that could not be expressed in words. Clare was not only a spiritual support for her mother, but also the only bridge for Victoria to keep the fragile thread of hope in this life. Although Clare tried to be strong and optimistic in front of her mother, she could not help but feel helpless when witnessing Victoria sinking deeper and deeper into sadness. She witnessed her mother often sitting quietly in the dark, her hands placed on her stomach as if wondering if she had enough strength to overcome the fierce waves of fate. Clare could only silently stay by Victoria's side, encouraging her, even though sometimes those words of encouragement only made the silence last longer and heavier. She understood that her mother was struggling not only with the pain of loss, but also with herself about whether to keep the baby or not. Besides Victoria and Clare, Nikki was equally heartbroken when witnessing what was happening to her daughter. Even though she was an experienced and strong woman, Nikki could not help but feel heartbroken, tormented, and blamed herself for not fulfilling her duties as a mother. Memories of Victoria as a child, falling, crying, and running back to her mother's arms, now appeared clearly in Nikki's mind. But this time, Nikki understood that no hug was big enough to dispel the darkness that was covering Victoria. She could only stay by her side, quietly taking care of her daughter little by little, so that if Victoria collapsed, at least her mother would still be there to support her. When the news of Cole's death spread throughout Genoa City, relatives, friends, and even those who knew him could not help but be shocked and regretful. An atmosphere of mourning enveloped Victoria's family, turning each day into a new challenge for three women who were already exhausted from the consecutive losses in the past. Cole's funeral was held simply but no less solemnly, each bouquet of flowers, each look of regret, each sob seemed to deepen Victoria's unhealed heart wound. Standing in front of Cole's portrait, Victoria felt as if her soul had followed him out of this world, leaving her body lost, unsteady, and without support. Throughout the funeral, Victoria had to force herself to be strong, trying not to let her tears fall in front of everyone, but every small gesture, every handshake from Clare, every red-rimmed look from Nikki made her feel like she was about to burst into tears at any moment. She knew everyone was worried about her, especially when those close to her realized she was pregnant, but Cole was no longer there to share that joy and responsibility. Perhaps Victoria had never seen the future so bleak. She wondered if she had the strength to become a mother again, if she had the strength to both raise a child and heal the deep emotional wound. As time passed slowly, Victoria began to experience both mental and physical changes during pregnancy. Morning sickness, fatigue, and insomnia made her even more exhausted. Nikki and Clare took turns taking care of her, trying to help her reduce her negative thoughts. However, only those who have experienced the pain of losing a loved one can understand how painful it is. Victoria often cried in the middle of the night, her hand pressed against her belly, whispering unanswered questions. Would the baby be happy when he was born without a father? Would the mother be strong enough to be a support for the baby? That question always lingered in Victoria's mind, making her hesitate about the decision to keep the baby. She knew that if she kept the baby, it would be a great responsibility, but if she didn't, she feared that she would forever live in torment and regret. Nikki, with her deep maternal love, could only advise her daughter to listen to her heart, because no one could make a decision for Victoria at this crucial moment. Nikki also could not hide her tears when she saw her daughter crying, hugging her stomach. She could only squeeze Victoria's shoulders and whisper that no matter what happened, she would always be by her side. Clare also sat next to her mother many times, holding Victoria's hand, silently sharing her sadness. She knew that her mother did not need clumsy words of comfort, but only needed someone to be by her side, to listen and sympathize. Clare secretly hoped that Victoria would be strong enough to overcome it, not only for herself but also for the baby that was about to be born. She understood better than anyone that every life that appeared in this world was a miracle, no matter how difficult or painful the circumstances were. Relatives, like Nick or Billy, also tried to encourage Victoria, but sometimes that excessive concern made her feel suffocated. Victoria gradually realized that only she could overcome this great mental shock. She began to look for Cole's memorabilia, reread old letters, recall trips, happy moments, and then let tears roll down her cheeks. That was how she healed herself, little by little, with her own pain and unforgettable memories. As her belly grew, Victoria gradually got used to the idea of becoming a mother again. She began to talk to the baby in her belly, telling her about the wonderful father she would never meet, about her unfulfilled dreams, about the love she and Cole had for each other. At those times, she felt life growing inside her, like an invisible force that helped her continue moving forward, even though the road ahead was still full of thorns. Nikki saw the gradual change in Victoria's eyes, from despair to more resilience. She knew that, although the pain could not be relieved, Victoria chose to face it, not to escape from fate. Clare also gradually felt more secure when she saw her mother gradually regain her balance, although sometimes she still cried silently at night. As the due date approached, Victoria faced a new fear, the fear that she would not be strong enough to overcome it, the fear of losing her last hope once again. But every time she thought of Cole, of the child in her womb, she told herself that she had to be stronger, because that was the only thing she could do to preserve Cole's memory, to not disappoint the expectations of her mother and daughter. Although the future was full of challenges, Victoria chose to keep the baby, as a living testament to the undying love, to the extraordinary strength of a woman who had experienced so much loss. That child, although born without a father, would grow up in the boundless love of her mother, her sister, and her grandmother. That will be the motivation for Victoria to continue living, to continue hoping for a brighter tomorrow, even though she still carries in her heart the memory of Cole, of an unfinished but immortal love in her heart. And then, in the moment when the sunlight shines after long rainy days, Victoria will realize that, no matter how cruel life is, love and determination will still be the strength to help her stand up, move forward, and pass on the flame of hope to the next generation in her family. After weeks of struggling with the pain of loss and the responsibility of motherhood, Victoria began to face a series of changes that not only came from within her soul but also from the people around her. Every morning when she woke up, she felt more clearly the weight of her new life, when there were only 3 women left to rely on each other, trying to find a glimmer of light in the dark night. But it was in the darkest days that Victoria began to realize that her family was still the only place she could rely on, the motivation for her to continue trying. Clare also grew up in the challenge. Maturity was no longer just a milestone of age but a real experience when she and her mother went through each pain and each incident. Clare increasingly became a solid support for her mother, her grandmother, and her unborn child. Sometimes, in the quiet nights, she would sit quietly by her mother's bed, listening to Victoria's heavy sighs, listening to the heartbeat of her baby in her womb as a fragile comfort in the storms of life. Nikki, an experienced mother, understood that this was the most difficult moment in her daughter's life. Maternal love, responsibility and even regret for not being able to bear Victoria's pain kept her awake all night long. She was no longer a strong woman in front of society, but just a mother, heartbroken to see her child suffer, pitying her grandchild who would grow up without knowing the shadow of a father. Nikki was even more worried when Victoria continuously showed signs of collapse, prolonged insomnia, waking up in the middle of the night with dark circles and a blank gaze. The loss of Cole also created a void not only in Victoria's heart but also spread throughout the small community where they lived. Old friends, colleagues, and neighbors all clearly felt the heavy atmosphere that enveloped Victoria's family. Many people silently sent words of encouragement and help with simple actions such as a fruit basket, a hot meal, or simply a sympathetic look when they met on the street. But it seemed that no one could truly touch Victoria's deep pain, except for her blood relatives. It was also during this time that a series of new challenges came, making everything even more precarious. As Victoria gradually regained her balance, practical problems arose. Legal issues related to Cole's assets, disputes over inheritance rights, gossip about the father of Victoria's unborn child, the prying and pitying looks of outsiders, all like sharp knives cutting into her already fragile self-esteem. Not stopping there, the appearance of old faces in the family made the conflict even more intense. Nick, Victoria's brother who has always been by her side, worries about his sister so much that he constantly interferes in her every decision, even the smallest ones. Nick's concern sometimes becomes pressure, making Victoria feel controlled and losing control of her own life. Amidst the advice and arguments, Victoria feels more alone than ever. She wonders if anyone really understands what she is thinking, what she wants, or if it is all just other people's expectations imposed on her. At the same time, Billy, who had a complicated past with Victoria, also appears with the intention of helping, but has many calculations of his own. Billy wants to use his experience and relationships to help Victoria overcome the financial and legal crisis, but accidentally makes her fall into a spiral of doubt and insecurity. Victoria clearly understands that not everyone who helps is sincere, and not all advice comes from pure concern. Billy's appearance caused the wounds that had seemed to have healed to be rekindled, memories of separations, reunions, breakdowns, and reconciliations kept coming back. The tension in the family increased when Victoria began to express her desire for independence, not wanting to continue receiving material and spiritual support from everyone. She proactively sought out a lawyer, solving complex legal problems herself, despite many failures, tears, and criticism from loved ones. Clare became the mediator, trying to soothe the anger and reproaches between her mother and other family members. Sometimes, Clare was so tired that she just wanted to scream, but she knew she had to be stronger than ever to be a support for her mother. Meanwhile, Victoria faced challenges from her own body. Her health was declining, and dangerous signs of a high-risk pregnancy began to appear. The doctor advised her to rest completely and avoid stress, but how could she feel at ease when so many responsibilities and pressures were weighing on her shoulders? Nikki stayed by her daughter's bedside day and night, worrying about Victoria's every breath and every small movement. There were nights when she silently prayed, hoping for a miracle, hoping that both mother and child would safely overcome this life and death challenge. Then a major incident occurred when Clare, wanting to protect her mother from malicious gossip, got into an argument with her friends at school. The incident reached a climax when Clare was temporarily suspended from school, causing Victoria even more heartache and self-blame. Nikki had to act as a mediator, standing between mother and daughter, helping them find peace and connection during the stormy days. On a rainy evening, when the whole family was almost exhausted from too many events, Victoria suddenly had a severe stomachache. Nikki panicked and called an ambulance, while Clare burst into tears, scared of the prospect of losing her mother. At the hospital, everyone was nervous and worried to the point of suffocation. Between the boundary of life and death, Victoria realized that the most important thing at this time was to fight not only for herself but also for her unborn child, for the love of mother and daughter. In the following days, Victoria had to stay in the hospital for continuous monitoring. The doctor warned of the risk of premature birth and high possibility of complications, forcing everyone to prepare mentally for the worst. Nikki and Clare took turns staying by Victoria's bedside, not daring to leave Victoria's side for even a moment. The atmosphere in the hospital room was heavy, tense but also full of hope, because in this dangerous situation, family affection became more sacred and precious than ever. Victoria, in the moment of facing death, suddenly felt an extraordinary strength from within. She thought about Cole, about the unfinished promises, about the future of the baby, and realized that she could not give up. Her strong will to live and her unconditional love for her child gave her the strength to fight the pain, to keep hope for tomorrow. After many days of fierce struggle, Victoria finally overcame the crisis. Her health gradually stabilized, and the baby in her womb was also safe. This event was like a miracle, like an affirmation that no matter how challenging life is, maternal love and family love will still overcome all adversities. Both Nikki and Clare shed tears of happiness, deeply feeling that, as long as they had each other, they would never fall before the storms of life. Victoria gradually recovered, but she knew the journey ahead was very long. Cole's passing left her with an unforgettable scar, but also helped her realize the true value of family, love and hope. Although the baby will grow up without knowing a father, Victoria is confident that, with the love and protection of these three strong women, the child will be wrapped in the arms of happiness. From the deepest pain, Victoria and her family have found light, found a reason to continue living, to continue hoping, and to continue fighting for the future. And just like that, amidst countless challenges, amidst the constant changes of life, Victoria, Clare, Nikki, and the unborn child still steadfastly move forward, writing a new chapter for their family, a chapter of love, of solidarity, and belief in good things no matter how cruel the reality is.